All right, guys. So last week I made a video commenting on Nikki Sixx's appearance on Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk, where they get into a little side conversation about that other bands may have been asked to reunite for the Carnival of Sins Tour. I speculated that maybe the band that was asked was Ratt. A lot of you responded and said, not so fast. There's some evidence that band may be Cinderella. And Stephen Pearcy of Ratt responded to my video. Let's get into all of it.
Well, with this change of the weather, some people might have a little rock and roll pneumonia.
You wanted the best. You got the best. From my home studio on Long Island, New York. Welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I am your host, Ian Scotto. And I know it's sometimes patronizing when... Is it patronizing? I don't know. It's late at night. Maybe my English is off. Whatever. When content creators say their audience are the most intelligent audience on the planet and that they have the best viewers, I actually do mean it, though, because some of you guys are even more in the weeds on this stuff than I am. And hey, I don't feel offended if I'm wrong on something and you guys are like, no, you didn't read up on this thing. So we'll get into all of it, because a lot of you brought up Cinderella and you said there's receipts that Cinderella was asked to be on this tour. We're going to get into all of that. However, because I spoke in the first video that many of you have seen about Ratt possibly being asked, Stephen Pearcy himself saw the video and responded. Yes, I'm going to show you right here. So I put up this video, which you guys really had a great response to, and I really appreciate it. And that's why I'm doing a follow-up also, because there's more information out there now. So one of the first comments on here that I got, and I'll zoom in on these, was, I just saw Warren and Steven at Hinckley, which I guess is a venue I'm not familiar with. They still rock. And they do. But here are the comments. Stephen Pearcy TV 4654, yep. Now, I know Stephen Pearcy's account pretty well, just following what he does on social media and on YouTube. And he is, I don't know, I think engaged. They're very beautiful. I hope I'm not offending Stephen by saying I like her style. She's smoking hot. All right, I'm just gonna say that. Christy Adair, Miss Truth Adair. I know she runs a lot of his stuff. So I then asked, like, who is it running the comments here? And it is Christy. But as you can see, that is his official page. I'm not getting duped here. This is Stephen Pearcy TV who's responded, and you can see all these videos of him with Christy. And so I was really honored that they commented on this. But then Christy put it up on her personal Facebook page, and it got a ton of responses, including, as you can see, from Stephen Pearcy himself. And he really sets the record straight. And I'm going to read what he said here. He said, well, shit. By the way, nobody called me about doing Mötley shows, so maybe I'm wrong. Don't know who's insinuating what. Warren and I have been out there doing our thing all year, playing Ratt music. There's a bit of misinformation on the shows Warren DeMartini and himself have done, though. We've done great shows this year, starting before the M3 Rock Festival. The Pearcy DeMartini 2025 shows have been amazing. And I reported on those before they even started, and I thought it was awesome that they're out there doing this. We've been doing great venues. And I did mention them doing clubs. Yeah, they're doing some clubs. You know, my only point was that if you have the Ratt name, it sells more tickets. It's just the truth. And there are people who want to see all surviving four members get back together as Ratt. I'm going to get back to what he's saying here. The possibility of Ratt with however many members representing our catalog, or Warren and I out there delivering, I can guarantee an ass-whipping old school, and Mötley knows what we got. Take it as it is. Ratt and roll. There's never been animosity ever with Mötley, even as far back in 1981 or now. Hey, Vince Neil is still my Bordello bros. LOL. I don't get the reference. Maybe one of you in the comments could fill me in. I have the option and artillery with Warren back now, so let's see. 2026 to be announced with Warren and myself, or a Ratt next. And then there were comments on there. There was one comment that Christy made. Yeah, it's not on this one that I gotta show you guys. because I thought it was funny. So she shared it to a group, official Stephen Pearcy group, and people are saying we're a tough sell, Juan and Blotz, who would want to deal with that. Look, people would love to see the full band back together, of course, of the surviving members. I would love to see that. I'd love to see Warren and Steven, but I'd love to see all of those guys back together, and I think any Ratt fan would. But let me find the comment I'm talking about here.
A few moments later.
There we go. All right, so this guy, John Napolitano, writes, why can't Ratt just get it together? This would have been huge. And Christy writes, read Steven's post. It's not coming from the Ratt camp. Yes, it's coming from myself. Mötley has never wanted to follow Ratt. It's hard to follow a band that kicks ass authentically, no tracks. You are a bit of a shit stirrer, Christy, and I like it. You know why I like it too? Because there's way too many content creators on YouTube who just are so PC and don't want to offend anybody, and they're like, if I say the wrong thing, maybe I won't get an interview with these people. No. That's why I do like listening to Eddie Trunk, because he does keep it real for the most part when it comes to that stuff. Are Mötley playing the tracks? Yeah. I mean, I've seen them more recently. And yeah, they have been. It's been well known for a long time. I was at the show that they did at Bowery Ballroom, which Eddie Trunk, I don't know what show he was at, but he was like, they really stripped it down for this show. They didn't play the tracks. And I heard tracks. I know when I hear tracks, and there's some type of crazy shit going on now with AI and all different types of things. Jizzy Pearl of Love Hate and of Quiet Riot just did a video about it on YouTube that you could check out. But yeah, I could hear stuff when he goes on and does, especially those older songs of it sounding like old school Vince, and we know that's not how he sounds. This is documented, right? But the whole idea of they wouldn't want to follow Ratt, so I'm going to be authentic as well. I have not seen Warren and Steven go out there for these recent shows, but I've seen Steven play shows quite a few times in recent years. I saw the Ratt reunion of everybody except Bobby Blotzer at the Paramount in Huntington, I think like 8 years ago at this point. Time flies because it really does not feel that long ago. And it was excellent. About 2 years later, there was a Ratt that was touring of just Juan Crucier and Stephen Pearcy and other guys. There's been a million lineups of Ratt. You guys know this. There was even a Bobby Blotzer with... Anyway, I was at that show. It was well documented online. Stephen was not in good shape, okay? I don't know what he was on. I believe he said it was some type of medication he was on. The show was a disaster, all right? It was well documented all over the internet, and it sucks when that happens because there are people who maybe that was their only time seeing Stephen Pearcy, and they're like, I'll never go again. I'm not that guy. I know it was an off night. So fast forward to 2024, early 2024, I saw Stephen Pearcy headline Mohegan Sun Arena, which at casinos, it's easier to headline for those type of groups. Stephen Pearcy isn't normally headlining arenas, to be honest, right? We know that, but they're able to pack things in for these casino gigs when they have high rollers giving tickets. But he was headlining, really cool show. It was him, Vixen. It was Riley's LA Guns without Steve Riley because it was post his death, and Quiet Riot. Hell of a show. Stephen was awesome that night. Then fast forward to last New Year's Eve, I flew out to LA to the Whiskey A Go-Go to see him one night, to see Faster Pussycat, and to see the real LA Guns. Stephen was fucking awesome. All right, had an amazing time. He played that newer... It's not a new song. It's a old song that they finally released in recent years. Reach for the Sky. Reach for the sky. Love that song. So cool to see that live. Had a blast. Stephen was absolutely awesome. And he packed the whiskey way more than the other groups that I mentioned. When I saw LA Guns, you were able to move around a little bit. Same with Faster. I remember no matter where you were on the floor at the Whiskey for Stephen, they were like, you got to move along. But it was like, there's nowhere for me to move. And if you've ever been in the Whiskey, man, like great sound at the Whiskey. So Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's kicking ass out there with Warren DeMartini, but if Mötley were trying to get another band on that who could play to amphitheaters and sheds as they're trying to do, I'm sure that if they could, they would want the Ratt name. And I think to have the Ratt name, you probably have to have Juan involved in some way. I know there's a lot of legalities here, but truthfully, we'd love to see it with the Blotts, with Bobby Blotzer. I'd love to see that because unlike a lot of you guys who got to see the classic lineup with Robin in the 80s, I didn't. So I would love to see the majority of the group out there, all the living guys, get together as Ratt one last time. Whatever happened, I don't know. So that was pretty freaking cool, having Stephen Pearcy respond to my video, and it lets me know this channel is making an impact. Like, this is what I hope to do, is make a little bit of news and make a little bit of noise making this channel. And then when I see Stephen Pearcy comment on something, I'm like, wow, is this real life?
Is this real life?
Yeah, this is real life.
Anyway, on to the Cinderella stuff here. Here's where it gets interesting and where I give major props to my audience knowing stuff that I'm not in the know about. So if you watched that original video, I not only mentioned Ratt, I said maybe a Skid Row reunion is what they were hoping for, but I did say it would be less likely because right now the demand for Skid Row is just so huge that I don't see them wanting to open for Mötley. I think they'd want to headline something or maybe do something with a bigger band right now, like that reunited Pantera, do a co-headliner with them. But to me, the perfect time for Skid Row to reunite would have been when Guns N' Roses reunited. That would have been perfect. Perfect timing, right? I mean, because they had Lenny Kravitz opening some dates, Alice in Chains, but what we really would have wanted to have seen would have been a reunited Skid Row opening for Guns N' Roses. But to me, that window is past. That would have been the biggest event they could have done and had the biggest impact, in my opinion, but the demand is still there. I mentioned Poison. Not really a reunion, but there has been some infighting, and those guys haven't toured for a long time. I don't know about a long time. What should I say? What is it? 4 years or something like that? I don't know. But it's been a while. People are eager to see Poison get back on stage, especially for the 40th anniversary. And it doesn't seem to be happening. But I don't think that would be big enough for what they're looking for. A lot of you guys in the comments are like, maybe a Vinnie Vincent reunion. How about Shotgun Messiah? How about Tiger Tails? It's like, guys, we're talking about playing amphitheaters here. None of these bands were ever big enough to play amphitheater. And Nikki Sixx, if you listen back to the original video in his comments, he's a pretty self-aware guy, as many people like to bash him. I'll always be a Nikki fan, and he realizes that Mötley Crüe is not a band that could play amphitheaters by themselves and draw a big enough crowd, hence having Extreme and Tesla on the bill, but the suggestion that they may have wanted an even bigger band to be a part of this. So one of the first comments, actually the first comment on this video, so I got to go by newest first, was this guy, and he dropped some serious knowledge, so I got to give major props to you. As you can see, ton of comments on this video. Thank you guys so much for the feedback on that last video. So a lot of people mentioned Cinderella, but this guy, CIA Hole, props on the name. Hilarious name on here. CIA Hole with the House of 1000 Corpses graphic or avatar says Cinderella and Skid Row, if you know, you know. And I was like, does this guy know something I don't know? Because that's what he's hinting at. So I looked at what he said, and I was like, Cinderella, that would be interesting. Any more insight into it? And this guy wrote, Fred Coury of Cinderella spilled the beans a couple months ago. Inner camps were not pleased. I'm sure if you Google it, something will pop up. Sure enough, something did. And I'm going to show you guys. So this was not on my radar, truthfully. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the fact that I do listen more to Ratt and I do listen more to Skid Row, is that Cinderella just wasn't a thought for me, but it makes perfect sense. Fred Coury, and this was on November 21st on Blabbermouth, says Cinderella was asked to do a huge tour next summer. It's just not going to happen. Let's go into the quotes here. In a new interview with Canada's The Metal Voice, Fred Coury was asked if there could ever be a Cinderella reunion of all the surviving members of the band. Guitarist Jeff LaBar, of course, died in July of 2021 at his apartment in Nashville at 58. The Cinderella drummer said, "There's not. We were asked to do a big tour next summer, a huge tour, and it's just not going to happen." And then this is another quote from Jason Green's podcast, Waste Some Time with Jason Green, which I'm sure many of you know. Well, we all still play our instruments, so Tom Kiefer is out touring. Eric Brittingham is doing a benefit, Rock for Hope. So we're all pretty active in playing. We have our chops, so if something had to happen, it was like, oh my gosh, you guys could save the world. We need to have you play. There's no reason we couldn't. But yeah, I guess that's the only quote, is that they were asked to do this, and it's not happening for whatever reason. And now that it's been mentioned, Cinderella would be perfect for this. I do think if you had Mötley Crüe as the number one thing on there, and then Cinderella, and then these other bands, that would possibly sell out an amphitheater, and I'm not too sure about what they have now, and that's no disrespect to the bands now, but that seems like what they're hinting at. And then also, I found this, which I was unaware of, and, pardon me, because I'm not aware of every single tweet that Nikki Sixx makes, so this wasn't on my radar. I didn't know there was a friendship there. So back in May, Nikki tweeted out, "Been on a writing frenzy with Fred Coury for an animation project I started with Rob Minkoff, the Lion King director. We have amazing production and writing teams attached as we roll full speed ahead. Look forward to sharing more soon. As a writer, it's really juicing my creativity on all levels. Enjoy the weekend. Sobriety rocks." Now that's interesting, because not all of these guys in similar bands are friends. Actually, I'm sure most of them never see each other. This isn't the 80s anymore, and everyone is in different places. They're not all hanging out on the Sunset Strip at the Rainbow drinking beers every weekend. So there's a friendship there, and if there's a friendship there, it would make sense that Nikki would say, "Fred, you think you can make this happen? It would be huge for you guys. It would be big for us." That sounds perfectly reasonable. So, hey, I don't mind if I'm incorrect. So Stephen is saying he never heard anything about this. That doesn't mean there couldn't have been someone at management tapped that, hey, this would be big for them, and maybe it just didn't work out, and it never even got to the point where the artists knew. But yeah, if let's say it was one band, because it sounds like it may have been multiple, I think most realistically, you guys who said Cinderella are right based on the information that we're seeing. So yeah, I think it's very possible Cinderella was asked. Now, you know who probably doesn't want us talking about all this and speculating, truthfully, is Mötley Crüe and the other bands involved, Extreme and Tesla, because it makes it very clear that Extreme and Tesla were not the first choice to be a part of this tour. And understandably, I think Cinderella on the bill would be freaking huge. Ratt, Skid Row, everyone else we mentioned, and that doesn't take anything away from Extreme or Tesla. These are great bands, and these are bands that are definitely going to draw enough people to an amphitheater to make it more worthwhile. Now, do I think this is going to sell out? I don't know. I mean, I did my video that did very well on here about Judas Priest and Alice Cooper, and that tour not selling very well. It turned out it did all right in some markets and not so all right in other markets. I think this is going to be similar. Like, as a New Yorker, I've seen dates that are a disaster in New York, and then you go out to somewhere like Allentown, Pennsylvania, and they sell out, or they sell out in Middle America. Places like New York and LA were kind of spoiled here. Every great gig that comes up for the summer comes here. So, the average rock fan is only going to one or two summer tours, and if there's other stuff that gets announced, this might not be the number one thing that people hit, and it's pretty damn early. We're only in December. It's not even Christmas. I'm sure there's going to be many, many summer tours announced from now until then. Let me know if you guys are going. Let me know what you think of all this, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to like the video. Hit subscribe. Thank you to Stephen Pearcy and the very beautiful Christy Adair for checking out the video and spreading the word. It means a lot to me as a channel that is on the come up right now. And yeah, if you didn't watch the original video and you want to hear Nikki Sixx's comments and response to Eddie Trunk about, yeah, we were looking at some other bands. Click right here. Watch the full video.